Hello everyone, welcome to Clarity 16.3.2 Feature Supportability Training. I am Ramakrishna. As part of this session, we will discuss the latest features related to business agreements. What's new? As part of 16.3.2 release, we introduced the ability to create and execute processes for the business agreement object and the ability to create second level and third level sub-objects associated with the agreement object. And we have introduced the ability to create business rules, action items, and notifications on agreements, and the ability to display and manage agreements in the details flyout of roadmap items for roadmap items linked to investments based on the investment blueprint. We have also provided the ability to display and manage agreements in the details flyout of the investment module within hierarchies based on the investment level blueprint. And lastly, the ability to display and manage agreements in the details flyout of the investments module within objectives based on the investment level blueprint. Why is this important? We have expanded the availability of agreements management across roadmaps, hierarchies, and supporting sub-objects. This gives users a quick view of dependencies through agreements, enhancing collaboration and enabling faster decision making and execution. With respect to business rules, by linking agreements to business rules, organization can ensure compliance with internal policies and standards. An enhancement to agreements with notifications to relevant stakeholders helps proactively communicate changes or risks, supporting effective risk mitigation planning. And now agreements can also be tied to action items, enabling automated workflows, real-time progress tracking, and timely triggering of reviews and approvals. In this session, we will walk through some key enhancements related to the business agreement object, like the capability to define business rules, action items, and notifications directly on agreements, enabling automation, governance, and stakeholder alerts. The ability to create and execute processes for the business agreement object, and the support for creating second and third level sub objects associated with the agreement object, and the functionality related to the display and manage agreements in the details flyout of roadmap items, specifically for roadmap items linked to investments using the investment level blueprint, and the visibility and management of agreements within the investments module under hierarchies, again based on the investment level blueprint. And finally, the ability to display and manage agreements within the investments module under objectives aligned with the investment level blueprint. Now, let us look at the functionality of business rules, action items, and notifications on agreements on the system. Business rules using agreements. User can create business rules using agreement blueprint. I am in a standard agreement blueprint and looking at a rule send action item for get well plan review created using agreement as the target object and a custom attribute agreement status. Now the rule is defined as if the agreement status is in trouble, then send an action item review get well plan. And this rule is defined on the object agreement. User can create action items on agreements. Now let us look at an action item created using agreement as target object. Let's get into the action item review get well plan. Here the target object is agreement, and we have used the attributes associated with agreements to create the subject and message. Here we have used agreement name and agreement get well plan and agreement owners attributes to create subject and message. Define the recipient, and the action item will be sent to a resource defined on actions escalate, or resolve. Define decisions and actions using the custom attribute agreement status. Here, the action is defined as driven by the decision. If resolved, then set the agreement status as on track. If escalate, then set the agreement status as delayed. User can create a notification on agreements object. Let us look at the notification created using agreement as a target object. Here we have created a notification using the target object agreement and created the subject using the attribute agreement name and created a complex condition on the target attribute agreement status. And if agreement status is equal to delayed, then send a notification to a resource. We have created an action item, business rule, and notification using agreement as target object. As per the business rule definition, when the agreement status on an agreement is set as in trouble, then an action item review get well plan is triggered and an action item is displayed as bell notification. There are no bell notifications for the user hierarchy. Now let us set the agreement status as in trouble and a bell notification is displayed with the actions escalate and resolve. Let us click on escalate and the action is changed. The agreement status to delayed. As per notification definition, if the agreement status is delayed, then a bell notification has to be sent to the recipient. And the recipient received the bell notification stating that the following agreement has encountered a blocker, which is the content that has been defined as part of the notification. In this way, we can create an action item, business rule, and notification using agreement as target object. User can create processes using agreements as object by navigating to classic data administration processes. Now let us create a new agreement with the name process and add the process ID and then continue. Here, when we click on add primary object, we can see agreement as one of the available objects to create the process. Created a process with the name agreement stage gate with steps owner's approval and set agreement status. Owner approval created an action owner's approval that would create an action for owners to approve an agreement. This is how the owner's approval is created. After receiving owner's approval, set agreement status action sets the agreement status as on track. In this way, we have created a process with the name agreement stage gate. In 16.3.2, we enabled the process support in agreements blueprint with the addition of actions module. We are in a agreement blueprint. Now when we click on edit, under actions, we can see add process step coming up. You can click on add process and select any of the existing processes to create the on-demand process from the agreements blueprint. For the demo purpose, we have included agreement stage gate as on-demand process on the agreement blueprint. When a single on-demand process is configured in the agreements blueprint, the properties page of the agreement will display an action button with the display label for the name of the configured process. When multiple on-demand processes are configured in agreement blueprint, the properties page will display an action button with the label actions as a pull-down menu for the user to select on-demand process. The agreement status of this agreement is delayed. Now let's get into the agreement. Go to the properties page and then click on agreement stage gate process. On triggering the action agreement stage gate from agreements, a notification with action approved gets triggered. User clicks on approved button on notification and then the agreement status is changed from delayed to on track. This is how we can create a process using agreement as an object. Support subobjects on agreements. User will be able to create second level and third level subobjects using agreement object. For the demo purpose, we have created few second level subobjects with master object as agreement, and support compliance is one of the second level subobject of agreement. And we have created some third level subobjects by using the support compliance as the master object. Agreements blueprint is updated to configure second level and third level subobjects for end user access. Now let us say support compliance is my second level subobject, which I would like to see. Then get into edit modules, and under modules we can see the third level subobjects associated with the second level subobject support compliance. Once published, it will be available to be used by agreements object. Now, let us look at how user can interact with the second level and third level subobjects of agreements associated with an investment. I am in a project with an FY25 able payments module that has agreements module configured. Now, let me get into one of the instances of the agreement, cloud transformation. As we can see, the cloud transformation agreement canvas is opened along with the subobject getting displayed as a module. Compliance audit is an instance of the subobject support compliance, and the third level subobjects like digital accessibility compliance and other things are visible in the details flyout of the second level subobject. User can create a second level subobject instance and then user can create a third level subobject from here, or by clicking on the instance itself and navigating into the third level subobject. Like user can create another instance of the third level subobject and then delete based on the access rights. User can navigate back to the agreement, and here user can also either edit. These are all the existing functionalities of the agreement or the subobject on the investment. In this way, user can create, edit, and delete second level and third level subobjects of the agreements. Agreements on roadmap items. User will be able to view agreements in details flyout of roadmap items for roadmap items linked to investments based on the investment level blueprint. We are in a roadmap with few roadmap items which are linked to investments. Now let us look at one of the roadmap item, FY25 able payments module, which is linked to the project FY25 able payments module. Now when we go to details flyout, we see agreements module available, displaying the agreements that are associated with the link to project, that is FY25 able payments module. This is because FY25 able payments module project is associated with the blueprint project major, and project major blueprint has agreements module configured with show in details flyout toggled on. Now let us look at another roadmap item, Global X acquisition, which is linked to Global X acquisition project. It doesn't have the agreements module getting displayed in the details flyout. If we go to projects, we can see that Global X acquisition project is associated with the blueprint project M&A, and project M&A blueprint doesn't have the agreements toggle for show in details flyout enabled. So this is how a user will be able to view agreements in the details flyout of roadmap items for roadmap items linked to investments based on the investment level blueprint. Display of agreements in details flyout is supported in board layout as well as timeline layout along with grid layout. When the agreements module is displayed in the flyout, the end user will have the ability to create, edit, or delete agreements based on the access rights. Agreements on hierarchies. Users will be able to view agreements in the details flyout of the investment module within hierarchies based on the investment level blueprint. If the underlying investment blueprint has the agreements module with show in details flyout toggle enabled, then we will be able to see the agreements module in details flyout, as is the case with FY25 able payments module project. If the underlying investment blueprint does not have the agreements module with show in details flyout toggle enabled, then we will not be able to see the agreements module in details flyout, as is the case with Global X acquisition. Display of agreements in details flyout is supported in grid as well as timeline layout. When the agreements module is displayed in the flyout, then the end user will be able to create, edit, and delete agreements based on access rights. One thing to note is there are no changes to the agreements module for inclusion within hierarchies. Agreements on objectives. User will be able to view agreements in the details flyout of the investments module within the objective based on the investment level blueprint. The visibility of the agreements module in the details flyout depends on the configuration of the underlying investment blueprint. If the agreements module is included in the blueprint and the show in details flyout toggle is enabled, the module will appear in the details flyout. However, if the module is not added to the blueprint or if the toggle is not enabled, it will not be visible in the details flyout, as is the case with Global X acquisition. User will be able to create, edit, and delete agreements based on access rights. Show agreements of options to hide lines. A toggle is provided in view options to hide icons or agreement lines in investments timeline in staffing and roadmap timeline. If both checkboxes are checked, agreements will be shown with both icons and the lines. This is like having the both option. If only one checkbox is selected, that is either icons or lines, agreements will be displayed according to the selected visualization. Now when we click on lines and disable it, lines will not be displayed. If we remove both, then no agreements will be displayed. By default, both checkboxes will be unchecked from 16.3.2. From upgrade perspective, if the toggle was on in previous releases, then we will select both checkboxes to display both icons and lines. If the toggle was off in previous releases, then we will unselect both checkboxes and not display agreements on upgrade. Predecessor and successor in agreements object is FLS enabled for edit only. Users can only set the FLS for access edit. This concludes the dependencies agreement section. Thank you.